Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Johnson. I am the director of the Brown County Historical Society. I'm just going to tell you a couple things that are coming up here. This Saturday, we are having shoemaking by Pegeen over at the Kiesling House from noon to 3. And that's a drop-in program, so you don't have to stay for the whole time. Just come in and visit with Pegeen at the Kiesling House, noon to 3. And the popcorn wagon will, after you're done making shoes, come over here, and the popcorn wagon will be out again from 10 to 5. We are also having a brat stand fundraiser out at Shell's from noon to 6, so you could have popcorn, brats, and make some shoes that day. All right. And then for the brat stand, we'll be at Cashwise on Wednesday, July 23rd again. So, the time is flying. We are at mid-July, and so we know what that means. Come August, the Brown County Historical Society U.S. Dakota War Commemoration is coming up. There's a poster back there with some more information on what we're doing, but this year is pretty special because we are going to partner with the library as well. This program is sponsored by the Junior Pioneers. We also have some assistance from the Clean Water, Land, and Legacy Amendment. So, Wednesday, August 20th, John Haymond is flying in from Texas to talk to us about the infamous Dakota War Trials of 1862, Revenge, Military Law, and the Judgment of History. That will be free. That is here. On Thursday, we are going to have Corinne Mars come down at noon and talk to us about the Dakota Indian internment at Fort Snelling, noon, here, Thursday. There also will be a walking tour that morning, 10:30, I believe. But that one you can just show up for. More information on that flyer. Disregard the walking tour times. I am now seeing that it is incorrect, as this is an earlier version of this flyer. So I'll have more information available soon on that one. Then we are going to do, the battery will be at the Kiesling House on Saturday, August 23rd. There will also be a walking tour that morning. It either starts at 10 or 10:30. Both of these walking tours. They're in the morning because we wanted them when it was cooler outside for our host, our tour guide. So they are at either 10 or 10:30 on Thursday and Saturday. And then, of course, on Sunday, August 24th, the cemetery tour is at noon, a guided tour of the Pioneer section of the New Ulm City Cemetery. That is free. Meet at the Cemetery Maintenance Building. So that's what's happening with that. As far as this program, Lunch and a Bite of History, we're kind of halfway through our season now, after all this is going to go down. September 25th, Julie Farrell is going to come here to talk about counterfeiting in Brown County. Julie is a former Secret Service agent, so that should be pretty interesting. And then in October, Kim Kerrigan is going to fly up here over here from Boston to talk to us about the Iroquois Theater fire that took place in Chicago and its connection to New Ulm. And then we will end our season October 16th with the one and only Dan Grebner. It wouldn't be a Lunch and a Bite season without him. So that is October 16th. He's going to talk about community bands of Brown County. So that's the happenings. Again, more information back there, flyers of what else is going on, more demonstrations at the Kiesling House, more appearances of the popcorn wagon, and so forth. But that's not why we're here today. We are here today to hear Dan Backer talk about a beard. So, and a bar, and some drug stores. I recommended we put store at the end of the title. Otherwise, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if how this is gonna go, but artistic liberties, right? So, Dan Backer, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, we had the word store to the end of that. So a couple things here. A lot of pressure today. Sweeney's here. Tom Grebner's here. Paul Wachowski's here. Red's kid. I see a lot of Mrs. Anderson, Firth. I mean, come on, all the people I know. So thanks for coming today, you guys. This is a great topic to talk about. Let's just, when I say I have a quick story, this is something at work, wherever I go. When Dan says he has a quick story, it's not a quick story. So what we're going to do here. So Hans Langseth, the man, the legend, the king of the whiskers. So real quick here, this is kind of fun. So what we're going to do here, we're going to go here. All right. Now I'm going to have you hold on to this right back here. You can hang on to that for me. Can you grab that right there? There we go. We're going to do this here. This is kind of fun. So can you imagine? Let's see where we're at. Oh, no, we're at 12. No, wait, let's keep going. Oh, no, we're at 15. Oh, wait, no, 16, 17. Oh, to have something hanging from your chin like this. Ladies, wouldn't it be fun to get in bed with him? Curl up in that whiskers. So I can't imagine. So this guy, this is my great-great-grandfather, everybody. Let's give him a round of applause because I think that's pretty amazing. Hans Langseth. So when I was a kid in grade school, and I would talk about, the stories were told about how my great-great-grandfather has the longest beard in the world. My friends were like, what are you talking about? So when I was a kid, fast forward, Scholastica would come. He'd order books from Scholastica. We were in grade school, right? And I ordered the Guinness World Record book because I'm like, I got to show everybody this is a true story. So I ordered it up. I think it was Mrs. Sent's class when I was in grade school. Ordered it up, and I showed my friends. He was born in July 14th, 1846. He immigrated to the United States. Hans made his move to the United States when he was 21 years old. When he was 19 in Norway is when he started this whole thing. Okay, a beard contest, and he won. This goes way back. He lived 81 years. Okay. For whatever reason, he moved north in the 1900s to the township of Elkton Township in Clayton, Minnesota. And then in 1910, moved to the Dakotas. He was a wheat farmer, okay? So we're going to show a few more here. So this is kind of his timeline where he lived. Now, the connection here is, these are his kids. This is Nels, Carl, Emma, John, Peter, Bill, not pictured. What's interesting about this is Emma. This is where the story gets great. Emma is my great-grandmother, okay? So she married A.J. Esser Sr., okay? And they moved to New Ulm. Hans actually visited his daughter here in New Ulm, so he was here. Kind of fun. This is at a parade. Some of the ladies, I think he was quite the ladies' man. That's what I can tell here. So what he would do, folks, is he would roll this thing up, and he'd tuck it in his shirt, or he had a leather pouch that he hung around his neck, and he'd stick it in the leather pouch, okay? And as you can see, as it gets to the ends here, it's dreads, you know, so he had to roll it up. But kind of fun, using it as a jump rope. So this is when it gets really good. What he did is he went off with the circus. He was with the Ringling Brothers Circus for 2 years, okay? And this is a postcard. But he went off the circus for 2 years, and the story has it, couple things. One is the fat lady had a crush on him, okay? And she would wash his beard once a week for him and brush it and all good kind of fun stuff. So I don't know about Hans. And I'm guessing his wife, Anna, probably was glad he was gone for those 2 years. This is one of his sons in a house that he lived in the Dakotas. Now, Mary, where's Mary? You know this house. You do know that house. Yeah, so this is across the street from our house. I live on State Street. I'm the infamous, well, actually, about the Halloween guy. It's actually not me. It's a guy we put in a cage for the year. We let him out once a year. That's why he's so crabby. That's what I tell kids. So anyhow, yeah, this is the Esser house. And this is where my grandpa grew up. And Mary O'Connor. How many years were you in this house? 42 years. And Danny's there now? Yeah, that's awesome. So I used to play in this house. I happened to be friends with her kids. And so it was kind of neat to be in that house knowing that maybe there's some ghosts. Speaking of that, next door. The house next door was also the Esser house, right? So there's a story. I'm not going to name names on this one, but I'm going to tell you a story about that house. So there were some people that lived there. We won't name names. Nope, this is the one next to you over here, okay? And at one point, my great-aunt Martha Esser was pulling up in her car, okay, with her daughter, and she was, at the time, was diagnosed with terminal cancer. So I'm like, what the heck's Martha doing here? So they go in, their daughter, they come out, and I call my mom and dad at the time. I'm like, Martha was here. So my dad calls up the owner, and he knows the owner very well, and he says, what's the deal? Why is Martha, well, come to visit her child at home? I said, no, don't laugh, but we've seen a ghost in human form. And they said, if you could bring pictures, we could maybe tell the ghost to go away. So, true story. So this is my Uncle Leo is haunting the house next to this house. Okay.
Have you ever talked to Unisols?
Shh, you're not supposed to say the names, Mary. That's what I was trying to shh. That's correct. You got the answer right. Anyhow, but they raised their kids in this family, and like I said, this is, so what's kind of fun here is, so in 1967, the beard was missing for 40 years. And my great aunt, they cleaning out her attic one day, and there in a paper bag was the beard, okay? So you can, Jim Klobuchar, I don't know if you remember that, Jim Klobuchar was a great writer for the Tribune. This is the article he wrote about when they found the beard, and they donated to the Smithsonian Institute to put on display. So that's kind of fun. So, that's a big deal back then, 10-cent paper. Now, for 50 years, this beard, I'm like, I knew the beard existed. I want to go see the beard. So I contact the Smithsonian through email, get a hold of a woman named Sabrina. She's the archaeology lady. And she said, you know what, the only way we're going to let you see this is what's happened. In like the 90s, they no longer are showing human remains on display. So this was put into storage, okay? But I said, I want to see the beard. How can I see the beard? My wife, Janine, where's Janine right here? She thinks I'm crazy. Because it's either you're in the creepy side or you're in the cool side. So some people are going to go do what? So anyhow, so we made a trip to Washington, D.C. And part of my main reason to going to was to go see the beard. So this was actually the display when it was up in the Smithsonian. This was the actual display that was on display at the time that they showed. But here we go. Ta-da! So this was pretty neat. Actually, what's kind of crazy, when I first saw the beard, I actually got emotional. I started crying. I know that sounds really weird, but I had this emotional experience by seeing the beard. What was so cool is to be in the Smithsonian Institute and go down the bowels of the basement. And rows and rows of chests, not knowing what's in there. And she had it all displayed for us. It's kind of neat there with this thing. Here's a little closer view of it. So this is actually where it started. It is up here, and it goes down all the way down, and the end is over here. This used to be gray. This is the oldest part. It turned yellow. I mean, that's a 100-year-old beard, sitting there. And I was, like I said, to see something of your great-great-grandpa's that had been lost forever, and it was just very cool for me to see it, to know it was real. And like I said, Janine came with. It was kind of a neat thing. The thing that was great about it, though, is all this time, everybody's thinking how crazy I am. We get down there, and there's a log of like 50 people that have come to see this beard, all my relatives. So I said to Janine, I'm not nuts. I'm not crazy. So anyhow, so there was a big list of people that had come and see the beard, so I thought that was pretty neat. And what's kind of neat, too, is, what's interesting, he was a wheat farmer, right? Right? Well, if you can look closely, there's kernels of wheat in the beard yet. There's one down here. So I don't think the fat lady did a very good job of cleaning the beard. That's what I'm going to say. So anyhow. But no, again, this was actually really, for me, it was really neat to see, and I'm glad I went to go do this. Now, when we were there, so one of the family members actually dropped off one of these beers. This is from Norway, and Bestefar is actually grandfather in Norwegian. And this is a brewery over in his hometown of Eidsvoll that brewed this beer, and I'm like, I got to get some of this beer. So I contacted the company that was back there in Norway. They said there's a distributor in Wisconsin, but they don't stock this stuff in Minnesota or in the United States. I'm like, well, I got to get some of this beer because we got to share it. We got to do stuff. So, whoops, wrong way. Hang on, go the other way. So this is the beer. So it's in a can now. It's a Christmas ale. And what's interesting is like, I got to get some of this stuff. And the guy's like, well, this is the deal, Dan. It's a special delivery. Minimum order is 8 cases. So I'm like, well, doesn't matter. We got to get the beer, right? So I order the beer. The beer shows up, and I get the bill. $900. But now, this is the deal. You've all got a ticket, right? We gave you a ticket, right? Where's that bowl? So we're going to send 8 of you off with one of these beers. So pull out your tickets, folks. Now, this is the deal. It's a dark beer, and it's 9% alcohol, so it's some strong stuff. So get your tickets out. You didn't know you were going to get a prize, did you? This is expensive beer. Ask my wife. She knows. All right, so let's get the numbers out here. So 496-453. 496-453. Winner? Nobody? There, we got a winner right there. Okay, there you go. I'll get this done quickly here. Congratulations. Don't drink it all in one place. All right, let's just read off some numbers here. So 496-451. Okay, keep your hand up. 496-431. Keep your hand up. Oh, you can help me there. Thank you. 496, right back here. 496-431, 496-453. Oh, no. Really? Congratulations, Paul. Paul, I'll tell you this. Paul's dad and my dad were two, oh boy, how do you want to call those two? Grumpy old men? Yeah, something like that. That's one more number here. Keep going. 496-432. Oh, look at that. Come on back up here, Amy. All right, sorry this is taking too long, but that's okay. 496-457. 496. Oh, look at that. All this old lucky people over here. I got two left. 496-430. Well, congratulations. There you go. Yep. 496-455. 496. Oh, Mr. Firth, congratulations. Let's go. Like he needs this. And 496-429 is four. Congratulations. So I'm sorry if you didn't. By the way, I have many more. I should have probably beer for everybody because I had enough, but anyhow. So what was kind of fun, so the Journal did an article, which was really cool. What was really neat, though, is somebody over in Norway, I don't know how it got connected, but the Norway newspaper, Eidsvoll, his hometown, called me or emailed me and said, we want to do a story on this. So this was all done in Norwegian. So that was their front page a few weeks later, which was kind of fun. So got a lot of play on this beard. What's kind of fun about this over the years of, hey, Dan, tell us something interesting about you. I had a really good one. So that's Hans Langseth, everybody. Let's give Hans one more little round of applause. All right, so let's move on here. Where am I here? Beer today. I thought I was going to use notes. I'm not. That's typical. All right, so the drugstore. We got our honored guest here, Tom Grebner, today, knows all about the drugstore. In fact, Tom shared a 30-page document with me, The Life of a Drugstore, right, Tom? Yeah, so he wrote this great thing. So back in 1887, let's see here. So this is compliments of Elroy Ubel. Thank you, Elroy. So this is on Minnesota Street, and this is where the building first started, on that corner. And what they did back in 1906, they actually took that building and they moved it back here. They moved the building and then built this building. So that's 1906, and it was called Ole Olsen was the owner of the model drugstore. And this is in 1906. This is where I'm not very good because I'm good with ad-libbing, but dates and all that stuff. So this is a fun picture too. So 1914, it was purchased by Alfred Hellman, and he owned it till 1916. At that time, it was purchased by my grandpa. Now, so this is 1912. This is Ole Olsen. That's my grandfather. That's Elmer Backer. When he was 17 years old and he worked at the drugstore. What's kind of interesting, I have a nephew named Mark Betker. You don't know if you know Mark, but he and Mark could be twins. It's kind of fun. So he looks just like my nephew. And this is the building once again. So the fair was on the corner. That was a kind of a home goods store. So we fast forward to the Backer drug. Now, what's kind of neat here, let's see here, during the period of, there's a guy that Elmer hired during the time of when it was Backer's Bar, Backer's Pharmacy. Tom Grebner. Tom, do you know what year you started there? Do you have a recollection? 1946. So Tom was nice enough, like I said, to share with this. But before we get to this story, I got another little quick story that I need to tell because I love stories. There's the drugstore again. Elmer Backer, 22 years old, behind the counter there. That's when the drugstore opened and became Backer's Pharmacy. Now, look at this picture. This is really fun. Picking up the horse poop with the street sweeper there, the old Model T. You can see Backer's Pharmacy up here. It's kind of neat. So that's the Olson building. And Doc Fritchie was upstairs, right, Tom? Yep. That's where you got your prescription, and you'd come downstairs, and there he is. Good-looking guy. That's my grandpa. That's my dad's dad, Elmer. He died in 1965. He died the year when I was 1. Lots happened in that year. So let's go to this story real quick. I love this story. So when I was doing some research when my dad passed away, going through old pictures, and I came upon this little black and white photo, and that's my dad. And I'm like, this is somewhere in the neighborhood. And I live at 422 South State. Dad grew up at, what's your address, Tom? 216. So Dad would have been like 218, 220, 224. So they were neighbors. So I'm walking around the neighborhood looking at this picture, trying to find the buildings. And I'm in this alley, and I'm like, wow, this kind of looks like it. And as I'm standing there, a car comes coming down the alley at me. And I'm like, get out of the way. I'm looking, I'm taking pictures. And this gentleman comes up to me and says, can I help you? Well, it's this guy right here, Tom Grebner. He said, what do you need? I said, well, I got this photograph, and I'm trying to figure out where this is. It looks like it's right here. He said, well, Dan, not only is that your dad, but the catcher's me. So, and then Dan, who's this guy?
That's my dad.
That's your dad. So the brothers, he's the umpire. So how old do you think he would have been there? That's probably, oh boy. Yeah, whatever. So, you know, it's kind of, and Dad's got, I don't know what, he's got a fake cigarette in his mouth, or I don't know what he's got going on there. But he's got, oh, it's a lot, you know what, you're probably right. It is a lollipop, and you know what we did? We said, Tom goes, you know what, Dan? This is so cool, we got to replicate this thing. So, we did that. So you can see the 3 windows here, right? Even the downspouts still there. So that's the garage. And so this is the exact spot where these boys took this picture. But Tom couldn't quite get down as far on this shot. But so that's actually my son Cole that's playing my dad. So that's kind of fun. So this thing blew up. We put this on Facebook. I think New Ulm Now and Then, it's the most likes it's ever gotten. And KEYC did a thing on it. Channel 9 did a thing on it. So it got some great legs, and it was kind of a fun, very serendipitous, actually. So this was fun. So Tom was the person that made this come to life. So thanks, Tom. That was really well. So we recreated it. We think that's kind of fun. So we're going to go back to the drugstore now. I just thought I'd throw that in there because that's kind of a fun story. One of the old pharmacy boxes here. So during this period of time, Elmer hired a gentleman who all we might know as Tom Grebner. In 2024, Tom wrote a story called The Life of a Drugstore. Tom recently shared this story with me, and I want to share a few of, in first person, from Tom, from this story. So let's, hang on. So as I walked along the street, now this is Tom talking, by the way, okay? As I walked along down the street, I met Elmer Backer, who had been neighbors for quite a few years, and his son Callum and I were friends, and we played high school football together. Elmer had said to me he had just lost an employee and needed someone to take over the drugstore as a clerk and be an assistant to the pharmacist as well. And Elmer at the time was the postmaster in New Ulm. At the time, there were 6 drugstores in New Ulm and 15 bars. Most of the drugstores had doctor's offices above, and during this time, pharmacists back here, their pharmacist's name was Orville Buss, right, Tom? Yep. I think they called him Buzz. Was that his nickname? Yep. At the same time, my dad was attempting to go to pharmacy school. Well, that didn't go very well. I love my dad, but Cal couldn't pass the pharmacy school. So he came back. My grandpa's passed away, and it had developed into a strong interest. Tom had developed a strong interest in photography. My dad was still working for the drugstore, and he convinced Elmer into opening a photography store. Over the years, the camera has expanded, and many years later, changed. The actual name of the store became the New Ulm Camera and Drug, which you might all know. When the drugstore opened in 1916, this is which really gets kind of cool. Elmer placed a bench in this back part where they get your prescriptions, and this was the gathering place for 100 years. Okay, Hubert Humphrey sat on this bench. So this is the bench. And my dad hung on to this thing, and then my Kathleen at one point, you know, all know Kathleen, she painted it purple. I love Kathleen, but she painted it purple. She's not here to defend herself, so. But then she ended up saying at one point when my dad passed away, she said, Mary, my sister Mary Betker, she worked at this drugstore for years. So Kathleen thought Mary should have this. So this has been in Mary's house. They refurbished it and got it back down to the original paint. But if this bench could talk, Tom, right? Oh my! So the guys would gather around at noon, and if you got there early, you got a seat in the bench, right? So that's kind of a neat heirloom that we have in the family, which we're pretty proud of. So when the drugstore, let's see here. So some of the names. These are some of the names you put in there, Tom, that sat on this bench. Dr. Fritchie, Herb Fisher, Hans Haunstein, Helmer Grunmeyer, Jack Minium, thank you, Red Wojciechowski, Tom Green. And then, like I said, Hubert Humphrey was visiting on some sort of parade or some sort of visit politically, and he came in the drugstore for a little bit, and he also sat in this bench. Tom talked about some of the shenanigans they would do back at the drugstore, right? Yeah, here you go. So the back by this bunch, they had a phone that the guys would use, or they'd get calls, and you could use this public phone. Well, they rigged up some sort of a squirting system that had water hose, little thing that hooked up to it, so when you picked up the phone, it sprayed you in the face, right? So, and my dad was the king of pranksters, so this is right up his alley. And then you talked about, Tom, how at one point they put a lady's purse on the sidewalk, right? Tied a fish string to it, and pulled the fish string when someone would try to grab it. And what's even better, so Dad had access to all these drugs, right? So one night, my mom and Dad are at the country club, and they're out to dinner, having some fun. Doc Fritchie, I think, Dick Eichton. You guys remember Dick Eichton? Eichton Shoes? The Duke, they called him. So my dad, during the dinner, snuck a pill in Dick's drink. I don't even know what kind of pill this is, but it's pretty fun. I wish I knew what it was, because what ends up happening is you take this pill and your pee turns blue. So the next morning, Doc Fritchie gets a call from Duke saying, Duke, I gotta come see you. Why? I don't know what's going on. My pee's blue. So Fritchie's response was, so Dick, you must have seen Dr. Backer last night. And that's when the truth came out. So at this point, I never know what kind of pill it is. Maybe somebody can tell me that, because I'd love to have one of those pills to play tricks on people. So anyhow, it turns your pee blue. So we get to Backer's Bar, or Backer's Drug, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself here. So the camera shop was added. So I got another really great story. So you see the letter R right there, right? In the sign, you see this letter R? That's the same R. Now, what's really cool about this, so I don't know, remember the St. Peter tornado, right? I don't know what year that was, 90s, late 90s. We're going out to Elroy Backer's pumpkin patch. And as I'm walking by the barn, I look in and I see this pile of plastic, red plastic, in a mess. And I'm looking and I'm like, wait a minute, do I see a letter in there? So I go to Elroy, I said, and a light bulb went off. I'm like, this is from the sign. Because Elroy, what happened what my dad ended up doing is taking these letters from Backer's Drug when he bought the bar 3 stores down. He took the same letters and he put it on the bar. So this was used both on the drugstore and which I think I actually have a photo of that. Here's my dad when he was a pharmacist, kind of. So this is the thing. Tom talks about how they were all filling all these prescriptions and they shouldn't have been, right, Tom? Yeah, kind of. There you go. So anyhow, I say to Elmer Backer or Elroy Backer, I want this letter. He's like, is that from the sign? He's like, yep. I said, what happened? He said, well, I had this sign out in the front of my farm for years, but the St. Peter tornado ran into the sign and blew it up. He said, this is the only letter that's left. But it's funny about him, he said, I need $5. I said, okay, here's $5. So I got the letter. So anyhow, Grandpa passed away in 1965. Dad never finished pharmacy school. So at one point there, though, Dad decided to sell the drugstore to Dick Hoberg. And that's, I think, this gentleman right here. Hang on. Wrong way. Hang on. Wrong clicker. We'll get there. There he is. So in June 1966, Richard Hoberg bought the drugstore. And what was interesting, though, is that he had it for, I think, till 1976. Does that sound about right, Tom? And came in one day and just said, I'm leaving. I'm selling the drugstore. And you and Chuck Regal, did you buy it, correct? Am I right on that? Okay, this was in 76. And then at one point you retired, and then Chuck took over for the New Ulm Drug and Camera, right? So this is actually the photograph. This is kind of fun. This is the year there was a Backer Drug and a Backer's Bar on the same block. So let's talk about the Dakota House for just a second, okay? A story here that some of you, if you work at Citizens Bank, you might want to leave. So what happened with the Dakota House, so actually Bernard Esser, who's another relative of mine, my uncle, Bernard would be Arnold's brother, they ran the place. And when it came time where they were wanted to sell, they were getting out of the business, and they wanted to find a buyer that would keep the thing going. The bank swooped in and says, we'd like to buy it, but we're going to tear it down. And they're like, it's not for sale to you. So they found this farmer that was really interested. Farmer bought the Dakota House. But guess what? The farmer was hired by the bank. And when the farmer got the Dakota House, he sold it to the bank, and the Dakota House was torn down. So kind of a crappy story, and like I said, I think a lot of those people involved that are no longer alive, but it's a sad story, actually. So here we go. Grebner and Regal buy the New Ulm drugstore. And this would have been 76. What a good-looking guy, Tom. Let's go. That was a long time ago. So here, Green Clothers. You know about that, don't you, Paul? So Red worked there for how many years was he at the clothing store? Forever. 88. Right, yeah, it's a long time. And I remember as a kid, there was like, you'd come in the back, Purity White back there, and I think there was an elevator. And boy, I'll say this. I was a little kid, but I was afraid to go in there because the Green Brothers and your dad would be so, oh, look who's here, it's Danny Backer. And all, it's like, just tone it down a bit, guys. But so you can see here, actually, this is when it turned into the office bar here. When we're going to get to that in a second here with the bar. So this is right before the Dakota House was actually torn down. So this is what it looks like. This is way back. This is what it looks like today. And there's what it looks like right now. Soda Street's in there. So a kind of funny story there. I was in there looking at the place. I did my Facebook Live there with GSM. And by the way, there's a little plug because I work there and I'm the marketing guy. So go to GSM. But we went to show me downstairs, and I was like coming upstairs. She said, did they sell rugs here? I'm like, what? Did they ever sell rugs here? And I'm like, no. And I'm looking, and it said, rug store. I said, no, there should be a D there. Oh, okay. So let's move on from the drugstore to my favorite part of this presentation, the bar. Now, what's interesting about this is I started doing my research on the bar when my dad passed away, because you know what? When he bought it, I was born in 64. He bought it in 66. I was only 2. But he sold it when I was 6. But I have memories of doing stuff in the bar, which is kind of neat, my first memories. And all of my life, I wanted to own a bar because of those days. And I think part of the reason, my dad was such a promoter. But it would start off, so the Esser bar, so my mom was an Esser, right? So these are relatives of mine. My great-grandpa, Leo. So this is in 1906. There's the bar right there. This is when it started out to be Esser's Bar back in the day. You see the Dakota House there. And they actually changed the front a little bit in 1916 with the new sign. I love the detail on these windows. It's kind of fun. So here we go. So they're talking about, this is another Elroy. Thanks, Elroy. This is a building that went up that year. Fall of 1960, the new front of the Essers, they added the new sign, the old Model Ts. So this is, and again, my wife is so amazingly great, because in my house, I have neons, I have beer cans, and it's all in the family room, by the way. But this is my next project, is to get the Esser's Bar neon made, because I think that's a pretty cool sign. It's founded in 1906. My great-grandfather, Arnold Esser, actually my mom's dad, 1911, my great-uncle Bernard, brother Angie Esser. So what's kind of fun is that they opened it and they had a liquor company in there as well. One thing I had found here, this is kind of neat. So this is a little Esser Brothers coin, and this is for nickels for the parking meters that they would let you do. And what's kind of fun is a gentleman on Facebook, go back to the drugstore, this is chloroform. I'm not sure why they would give a huge bottle of chloroform to anybody, but that was something that somebody gave me. And then this is a little ashtray from the drugstore. That's kind of fun. Just some neat things that I've collected there. So what happened is we always heard about this place called the Blue Lantern restaurant. And I'm like, my grandfather ran this place, opened it, and I'm like, but nobody ever knew really where was this place. Well, what ended up happening is they turned Esser's bar into a restaurant for the Prohibition because they couldn't sell beer anymore. So Elroy Ubo led me to that. It's like, oh, this makes sense because as kids, we'd heard about the Blue Lantern. We didn't know what that was. It's because it was during the Prohibition. Let's see here. Cocktail lounge. So yeah, at the end, actually, Watso Strati, I don't know if you remember that name, and Leo Esser were the ones that actually ended up. So what ended up happening, there was a fire in the bar. So they had to remodel. What's kind of fun here, too, is if you look, there's the bar. Good-looking bar. I miss that bar. If that bar was here right now, I'd own that bar. This talked about the different, when they did the expansion. So it's kind of neat here, folks. You've recently been out to Kegel Lanes, the bowling alley. Well, if you go up to Kegel Lanes, you can see this picture. So Joel Albrecht, when they demolished this place, he bought that painting, kept it. I offered money to Joe. He doesn't want to sell it. My wife says to me, where are we going to put that thing? She has a rule in my house. If I add anything new, I need to take something away. So I have snuck things in that she doesn't even know that I put up. But so that's the original painting of the German street that was in the bar. I remember distinct memory of those light fixtures. Me and Dino the bartender was great. I remember we'd come up and he said, Danny, come up here. And he'd put a napkin over a beer glass with a rubber band. And he'd stick a dime in the middle. And then he'd grab his cigarette, take a puff, and he'd burn a little bit of that napkin. And he'd say, now it's your turn. And I'd burn a little bit of that napkin. And the harder you push, the bigger hole it would make. And you'd go back and forth until the dime fell. And whoever made the dime fell was a loser. I was 6 years old doing this at the bar, by the way. So, and there's the back. So they actually had this was looked like a window with waterfalls. It was actually really a high-class joint. Very pretty, all very expensive wood. And again, we'll go this way. So, 1966 rolls around. Dad sells the drugstore. He's got this money, right? What am I going to do? I'm going to buy a bar. He's got 7 kids at home. And what's interesting, like I said, he only owned the bar for 4 years, but what's so wonderful is even while I've been growing up, many people have come to me, oh, Backer's Bar was the place, where the action. My dad had a slogan, where the action is, which was perfect. Dad would hire bands from Vegas. This is the thing. I think part of his problem was his entertainment was very expensive. There was actually times where the bands would eat at our house. Mom would feed them to help with per diem. And I think they stayed at different neighborhoods during that time. But it was kind of fun. So the bar, let's go a little further here, this way. So that's when he bought the bar. Good-looking guy, that Cal Backer. So like I said, it talks about here how the history of how the Essers had it for a while. Like I said, opened the lantern when the Prohibition was here. So he bought it when he was 40 years old. My dad is a member of the Rotary Club, vice president of the New Ulm Club, American Legion. He was all involved in Outstanding Man of the Year, JC's. He was quite the mover and shaker in town. Pretty proud of my dad. Pretty Polka Days committee. There's one of his first advertisements. So it's kind of neat here. The new sign, I love the new sign. Backer's Bar with the neon. And that thing underneath it there is, actually it says live entertainment or live music tonight, that he would flip that on when there was bands playing. The other thing my dad did is he sold Twins tickets at the bar. Not only did he sell Twins tickets at the bar, but he was the first person to ever put a TV in his bar. And he played sports there. So Dad was kind of ahead of his time with the whole sports bar thing. So there's the sign in color. It's kind of fun. And what's really great is when my dad passed away, in tribute to him, because I've always thought that sign was so cool, in my house, above my TV, I love my wife. She's so good to me. Is this neon sign. And like I said, it's about a third the size or half the size of it. It's only one-sided, not two-sided. But the thing I say to my kids now, when I'm dead, who's going to get this sign? And 2 of my kids are like, Dad, we're fine. We don't need this sign. We're okay. We're okay. So yeah, we have on Fridays and Saturdays, I turn the live music night on when Dad's, because it's just in tribute to my dad. So during the week, the live music is off. So this is another ad. These were the BJs. I'm not so sure about that name. There's the Twins box. This is where he sold the Twins tickets when he came. He had off sale. Like I said, Dad was so creative and so ahead of his time with what he did in the bar. And he, like I said, he only had it for 4 years. This was the stage, backstage. So we go fast forward here. So this sign, this is what's kind of fun. So the history on this guy. So we had this in our house downstairs. After my dad sold the bar, he did hang on to this. He wasn't a real nostalgic guy, but he hung on to this sign. You don't see it in here, but on the corner, you guys remember Otto Pfeiffer, right? Does anybody remember Otto Pfeiffer? He painted signs, and every sign had Otto Pfeiffer on it. Well, the corner's missing, but that had Otto's signature on the corner there. So Otto hand-painted that sign. And it's a black light sign, so you put a black light on it. You can't really tell, but I got a little black light here. So at night when the house is down and dark, this is glowing all night in the back of our house. So this is to show you if this picture was bigger, so you'd come in the back of the bar. This is where the sign was located, on this wall. And so he had a black light on it. Again, Dad, just super simple thing, but you turn the lights off, and this thing would just be this beacon as you walked in the back of the bar. Now, this is one of my favorite stories of my dad in the bar. So, a couple things. Dad used to have guest waitresses. He and Hucky Beyer would work on this together. So they would bring in these girls from the cities. This is where the R-rated starts coming, so if you want to leave now, you can. But what they would do is these girls would come in, and Dad would have them for the beginning of the night as guest waitresses. And then later in the night, they would go down to Hucky's. Not sure what they did down there, but they went to Hucky's. And they would dance down there. And so we're at Green Lake at the cabin one Saturday night. The phone rings. It's Dino, the bartender. Dino's like, Gal, what? And I can hear my dad. It's like, what's going on? Dino, they can't do that. What are you saying? Cal, they're taking their tops off. What do I do? So suppose the girls got a little, I don't know what was going on. But anyhow, so Hucky and my dad had this thing together where they'd get these girls. That brings up a girl named Big Boo Betty. Big Boo Betty was a singer in the bar that was, should I say, well endowed. She always wore low-cut sweaters when she sang. Tom, you remember this? The Big Boo Betty? Very vaguely? Well, I bet you better remember. You're just lying right now. But, no, so Big Boo Betty, what they did is the Citizens Bank had her in as a guest teller for the day. And I kid you not, there's a film of this. They put a camera up in the balcony of Citizens of all these. There's all 5 tellers, right? Waiting at the window. And there's one teller, Betty, and there's like 12 guys in her line. So, Big Boo Betty was a hit. So, speaking of promotion, so my dad, they bring in these Vegas acts, and it costs a lot of money. At one point, you can see right here, guess who's coming to the main stage at Backers? Wayne Newton's coming. Cal's getting Wayne Newton. And the place is, oh my God, it's an off night. I got him for a cheap price. Dad's telling everybody this. Wayne Newton's coming to Backers. He's got these Vegas acts. He's got a connection with this band. Wayne Newton's coming to Backers. And like I said, it's kind of fun because I found the ad in the paper. So fast forward the night, Dad gets on stage. The bar's packed. Ladies and gentlemen, from Las Vegas, actually, from New Ulm, Wayne Newton. And there was a guy in New Ulm named Wayne Newton. Throwing stuff at the stage, boo. And at that point, my dad ran a bunch of drink specials and said, thanks for coming. So that's the kind of person my dad was with his stories. It was kind of fun. So like I said, he turned it into from a sports bar, Vegas acts, see if I'm missing any Twins tickets. Now, my brothers, they were in high school at this time, right? Which is perfect. Dad's got booze. So they would be stock boys downstairs, right? Well, guess where this is going? My brother had this inside track to be the supplier to all the New Ulm High School kids. What even got better, you remember Ronnie Spellbrink Clothers, right? They were neighbors of ours. Well, Ronnie Spellbrink's kid, Doug, and my brother Doug and Doug Spellbrink would trade shirts for booze. So the boys were stealing from their dads. And my brother said, I never knew. I got all this nice stuff, new shirts, and my mom and dad were never said, where did you get that? Why do you have that? So, yeah, that's probably the reason why Dad wasn't making a lot of money. So this is actually kind of fun. This was his napkin in the bar. Check that out. So, I mean, he really was in the whole idea. He was ahead of his time. Nobody was doing this in their bars. And the sports bar thing was a thing, and he was way into it. Like I said, you could buy high school playoff tickets there. And he had gambling boards. You could go in there, many gambling boards, lay down your money. So this is actually then in 1970 when Dad sold the bar to Bart Harthouse. And like I said, my mom wasn't sad to see it go, just because she had 7 kids at home. But I have great respect for my dad. He had a real gift of gab, creative, promotional guy, ideator. He was in his element in the bar. And it's too bad that he couldn't go on. And I fast forward to my years of DJing and emceeing down in spring break, right? Emceeing big stages, college girls, dance contests. And at one point my dad said, "Say, Dan, I used to be really good at promoting stuff. Do you need any help down in spring break?" I said, "Dad, no, you're good." So he would tell stories, and it was great to have my dad. The R, the sign, the bench, got all that covered. Oh, one other thing. Denny Warda. Remember Denny Warda? So they had a bowling team together. Warda's Beauty Water and Backer's Hard Liquor. DJ. Well, it's kind of fun. So this is in a thrift store, right? Speaking of the devil, this is actually Denny's shirt. You little guy, right? A-Team, Backers, Hard Liquor, Warda's, Soft Water. So these are kind of some neat heirlooms that I snagged from the store. What am I forgetting? I think that's everything. I have any more slides? I think I have a couple more here. Hang on. So yeah, the office kept the same sign, just changed the name a little bit. And oh man, if I knew where that sign was. So this is the unfortunate time when the bar got torn down. The bank bought the bar after, this was in probably the 80s, I think, sometime, late 80s. When they tore the bar down, and then the bank added on their little extension here. So stuff gets torn down and not replaced. And so, before I leave here, I just want to tell everybody, tell stories, tell people stories. You know, that's why I do what I do, talking about this stuff, the beard. I mean, that's why I got the cans for all my relatives. It's like, continue with this story. If you don't tell stories, things get forgotten. Pictures that you have, digital pictures, put labels on them. Who are they? Write on the back, who are they? I've got all kinds of stuff from my past that I've got stuff there that I'm the collector, and we don't know who these people are. They just get lost. So that's my encouragement to all of you. Go back home and label your pictures and tell stories. So any questions, comments? Because I'm done. Say, Tom, thank you for all your information. By the way, Elroy Uba, I want to thank him for his help for all the pictures. But yeah, the good old times of back in the day, like I said, it was definitely a great era. The New All Main Street, as Paul knows, was quite the place. And a lot of movers and shakers, and I think Denny's one of the last ones, I want to say, that's still around from those days. But I want to thank you for coming. And no questions? We're good? Anything? Questions? Concerns? No? Good? A little round of applause for Dan. So yeah, thanks for coming, and like I said,
Dan,
yes.
your dad ended up working at the Journal.
Yes,
He was what?
circulation manager.
Circulation. I don't know if he did some sales before that, but he was circulation manager
Yep.
there. And
Well, Jim, you tell a story. I want you to tell the story of the first time you came here with the guys in the sports club.
oh, okay.
You mean you're okay with the microphone?
No. So my first day of work at KNUJ, October 20th, 1975, okay? And so I'm up, Perry Galvin is the manager, that's who hired me. And at the end of the day, and Perry actually sent me out, I went out and made a sale that day. He had me go down and gave me a torn out little ad out of the newspaper, and it was from the Six Fat Dutchman station. Harold Loffelmacher had that gas station down there. And I sold him a $40 deal or something. Anyway, at the end of the day, Perry thought it was pretty good. And he said, Jim, I want you to come with me. He knew I was a single guy and 23 years old. Anyway, so he said, I want you to come with me. I want you to introduce you to members of Press Club. Press Club, really? This is a pretty big deal. New Ulm's got a press club. Well, I'm fortunate. I'm at KNUJ. It's my first day of work. So the KNUJ was above the Journal at the time. So we walk down, take a left. We go by Joey's on the corner. Take a left, and Shorty's bar. Walk into Shorty's bar, and immediately on the left, there's a round table. In there are members of the press club. Cal Backer's holding court right there. And then there were a few, Ron Schmidt and Bruce Fensky and Ronnie Whelan was in there, Leo Dorschner, and there's 2 chairs open, and Perry Galvin says, "Gentlemen, I want you to meet the newest member of the press club. Here's Jim Bartles." And that was it.
So one other thing, Terry, nobody threw up. He was saying one time he made a presentation, somebody actually threw up during his presentation. He said to me, "Dan, see if you can top that." I said, "Well, no, I hope nobody throws up today." But again, folks, thank you so much for coming out, spending an hour with me. I hope you enjoyed it. I had fun putting it together. My big thing is I learned the Blue Lantern. The thing that was the big mystery is that was during we didn't know where this restaurant was. So during my research this time, we realized where that came from. It was in the bar. It's just they shut the bar down and turned it into a restaurant for those 4 years. But thank you. You guys have get home safe and all that good stuff, and thanks for coming.